Welcome to the 10x Your Listings Challenge weekly live session. If you are new because it's after the holidays and you just started joining us, welcome. We're glad to have you. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background before I jump into things. Okay. So most of you guys and most agents, especially top producers, you're already sitting on a gold mine of seller leads, whether that's your past clients, your sphere of influence, open house visitors, expired listings. You all guys do different things, but you're already sitting on a lot of these untapped leads. But typically the problem is without a strategic system, those leads go dormant and they actually go to your competitors when those people are ready to do anything. So that's actually exactly what we are doing here, is creating a systematic process to 10x your listings. And that's what the challenge we have here. We kicked this challenge off at the end of last year, and we're going through this 60-day period of time to really fill your pipeline. It's a program designed to help you build your systems, your content, your infrastructure to generate a consistent stream of seller leads for the next 12 months. So we're basically talking about a complete transformation actually of your business in the next 60 days. There are a lot of things that we've broken down already. I am going to do my best to kind of reference where you can find some of the things if I gloss over it on this conversation. And then I will, towards the end of the conversation, try to keep some room for Q&A so you can jump on the chat and feel free to ask anything that you want to ask. Even if it is going backwards, it's okay. There's always going to be somebody else who has a question just like yours, so please bring it up. All right, so this basic challenge is structured into 4 main phases. And in phase 1, you basically review your foundation and your market intelligence. And what we did in the first phase, which was prior to the holiday, was look through really in your markets where you have the most motivated sellers. A big part of building your base is making sure you're going after the right audience. And that not only comes down to geographically where you are hitting it, but also what type of seller profile exists in that target audience. And that was basically phase 1, is reviewing that, making sure you're going after the right targets. Phase 2 was basically, let's set the strategy and get it going in terms of activation. Which is what we're in right now. Phase 3 is basically going after and executing across the targeted prospecting strategies that you picked in phase 2. And then phase 4 is towards the end, where we are going to analyze what is actually working and build the 12-month roadmap for the rest of 2026. So throughout the challenge, we're going to provide you with basically everything you need. That could be market research, which you have been sent. We're going to provide you with tons of different AI prompts. We are going to use AI quite a bit, and you'll probably be exploring new tools that you haven't used before. So you will have a 12-week content calendar. If you have not already done that or have the prompt to do that, I urge you to do that, because that is how you kick this whole thing off. Everything that we are doing is kind of building that foundation, and content sits at the foundation, right? So that's a really important part of the strategy. So we will provide you all of this information. We'll provide you with the prompts. We'll provide you with optimization. We'll help you do the posting. We'll help to make sure that you've got your promotions that are going out, whether that's SMS or email, managing your campaigns. We will help you along that. You're not doing this alone, but the key difference is that we're going to really do this with you and all together as a group to set you guys up for a great year, hopefully your best year. Last week and the week before that, we basically touched on the 4 non-negotiable commitments that you make, which are having conversations with people in your database, creating 2 times a week videos for YouTube, and executing your MOFIR strategy, as well as doing your monthly market update. And we showed you a new way to do that would help generate more leads. So that is kind of my very fast overview of everything we did so far. Today, we're actually going to focus on creating your go-to-market product. And I'll explain exactly what that means and why it's important. But before we jump into that main purpose of our call, I actually wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about some limiting beliefs, I would say, that I think are either causing some of you to almost pause or not really drive momentum forward. And I think a part of it really comes from what I was actually talking to Hoda about yesterday, which she's going to talk a little bit about. Hoda actually runs operations for the Stacy Esser group. She's on Stacy's team. And we were talking about analysis paralysis and really just kind of getting stuck in the information and the data and not being able to move forward because of it. And I think a lot of us, I would say, suffer from this from time to time. Either we're trying to make it super perfect and it's stopping us from actual progress. So I want to talk about that first because I am hearing small things that are coming up that should not stop you from building this literally growth flywheel, and I don't want it to stop any of you. So I think just kind of resetting at that point, I want to do that first. So let me see if I can get Hoda up on here. That was what I was trying to do before, but there we go. Hello, Hoda.
Hi.
Um,
I
all
did.
right. So I thought if it would be great if you just kind of recap the conversation we were having, because I think it's super relevant. I can tell you that quite a few agents that are in this challenge are really suffering from this right now. It's also the beginning of the year. And I think agents are also, you get a little worried about your pipeline right now because it does tend to be slower and you've just come back from the holidays. But there's no better way to kick off the year than with something like this. But I was hoping you could kind of take us through some examples that you're seeing and kind of how some agents can help overcome this and progress in the best way possible so that they can have their greatest year.
Yeah. So some of the stuff that we had kind of touched upon yesterday was that a lot of agents kind of get this analysis paralysis where they are overthinking everything that it is that they want to do. A couple of examples of how this happens are like getting caught up on the minutia, like you're trying to get out a mailer and you're nitpicking over a sentence or a picture or the way that it looks. And I've seen directly the effect of some agents who are keeping consistent with initiatives, whether it's a targeted mailer, social media activities, lead gen, that are winning and have coals in the fire because they've been consistent. So like mailers is a great example. Other ways that I've seen this is people being consistent with their open house follow-up. I think that's a really big one. Making sure that the next day they're making the calls to the people who have come, time blocking, like people who time block see results at the end of the day. If you are consistent, you're going to see the results. It's very easy to get discouraged when you try calling people back the next day and they're not responsive, but you're not always going to get it on the first go. This entire business is pretty much the long game, right? So it's just, if you're not seeing results, oftentimes agents like to see results right away. It's not going to happen, right? It's kind of building the business brick by brick. And then the other, form that I've seen this happen in is ensuring that people are being set up on IDX campaigns, for example, when you're taking somebody out and they don't see something that they like, making sure that you're putting them on these nurtures and following up in that way. So whether it's social media, mailers, following up on your open house, time blocking, you have to just commit to doing those things. And consistency is key with all of these things. If you're going to be consistent, you're going to see the results.
100%. And I think Stacy, you're a great example of really trying hard to keep everybody consistently doing something, because that is actually, I think you've always said it's very hard for you even to do, but making a really conscious effort to stay consistent, whether that is, you're starting out with this listings challenge and you've created your content calendar to create 2 videos a week. Actually doing that is quite another thing. What does that say? Focus on systems.
It's part of every Wednesday we do a sales meeting, and it's part of my sales meeting tomorrow. It's going over the highlights of Atomic Habits. And one of those is focusing on systems, not on goals. I think I'm blurry, so you can't see that, but it says focus on systems, not on goals. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. I always joke around with my team that when I present them into a sales meeting topic, I am coaching myself. I'm coaching myself, but the goal here is to be intentional rather than reactive. And that's what we're doing right now. And it's not, listen, it's not easy. It's not, it's easy to get discouraged. You know, if you have somebody in your market area that's succeeding over you, and it's easy to get discouraged. And I would encourage everybody to try to focus on the wins and not let yourself get down about what you think you're not doing, but to focus on the stuff that you are doing, because your head is in a lot better place to actually do the work when you're focused on this part of you that's being successful. I am literally speaking to myself, because as much business as I do, and my team did well over $200 million this year in sales, I can still get very focused on what I am not accomplishing. So trust me, it's all of us who are in this meeting and watching are very highly competitive, super motivated people. And it can happen to all of us, no matter what level you're at.
Percent. Okay. So I guess just kind of picking off of that, there were definitely some things that we had a lot of you guys focus on over the holidays or in the last couple of weeks. One of those things was time blocking, which is time blocking times to have real conversations with people in your database. With everything going on with AI and the level of, I would say, trust that is actually being hurt online. Right now, internet is moving towards authenticity, and that's going to be the most important thing that you can deliver. So having those simple conversations, actually you doing those conversations, are actually more important than ever, right? We're moving into a world of a ton of loneliness, actually, right? That's one of our biggest problems right now with everything going on with AI. And so your ability to connect with people and continue to build relationships is something that nothing is going to be able to replace. It's going to become more and more important. You know, actually, I'll give you a quick example just from my kids, but some of the things that are kind of coming back is landlines. They literally, there is this device that my kids got for the holidays, which is just, it literally has no screen on it. And it's like a landline for them to call their friends so they can have real conversations with people instead of looking at a device. You know, now they're actually learning to do those and have conversations, because that's where the world has gone, is that it's so difficult to have human conversations now. So I hope that everybody is time blocking. If you are not time blocking, do that now. And what that means is to set up time in your calendar every single day, right? It can be at whatever time is best for you, but set it up in your day to connect. Have 10 conversations a day. Maybe that's on your walk, whatever it is that you're doing. I hope that you are having those conversations. One of the I think it was last week, Jason Abrams did, he does that MREA podcast, and it was about tying in your lead gen efforts with your passion. And he gave some examples of some things that people are doing, because most agents hate lead gen. It's not a fun thing, but the ones that have succeeded the best and have had the most amount of growth have been ones who have tied it in with their passion. So the example that he gave a few examples, but one of the examples that really resonated with me, because I've been doing a lot of thinking when it comes to activities that are very human and away from online and internet, is this one agent. Actually, she sent out a postcard to her neighborhood. And on the postcard basically said that my goal is to lose weight. And so what I'm going to be doing is walking. And I'm going to meet at this point every single morning, Monday through Saturday. And if you want to join me on a walk, come with me. This woman has 70% of her market share by doing walks. Literally walks. So she on some days and on some Saturdays, there would be like 20 people in the community walking, just simply walking with her, which is phenomenal, right? Like that's when that's what the kind of things that change your business, because you're doing it differently and you're doing it around something that people really need, and you're offering something of real value. So I listened to that podcast if you didn't already, because I think it was a really good one. It was different than his normal style of interviewing top producing agents. It was just something that he's observed over the last few years that I think is really interesting to look at, especially in our AI times. All right. So that said, I just want to go on to what we are here to talk about, which is value. So and if you're an Agent Moves client, you know that I speak a lot about making sure that your value proposition and your superpower is well articulated, whether that is in your listing presentation, in your marketing plan, whatever it is that you do to create the best outcome for your sellers, to ensure that you package it up into your branded method. It's one of the most important things that you can do from a marketing perspective. It helps you to stand out more than anything else ever will. So I'll use Stacy's example. Her example is the value up method. And all of your methods, right, are typically aligned to a common goal that every single seller has. Right? Every seller has the goal of maximizing their sales price in the least amount of time on the market and minimize leaving money on the table. That's basically it. There's no one that's going to tell you that that's not their goal. As much as you can, designing your method around solving for that problem, the better you can do it. So Stacy, if you don't mind, will you talk about your value up method? Because then what I'd like to do is talk about, and a lot of you guys have your methods already defined, right? And we've gone through that process and you've created a lead magnet around it. What I'd like to do in this call is talk about how to create a product from your method. All right, Stacy, if you could just go through your value up method, what it is, and just so that everyone has a sense of what that looks like.
Sure. So the value up method starts always with a framework. It's like the framework of success. We start with talking about when people should sell their house and then starting with the right question. And then we go into our big first criteria, which is the prep slow, sell fast. So this is sort of the framework. And inside of that framework, I'll be able to hit everybody's questions. And inside of my listing presentation, typically if I don't have to get through the whole listing presentation if I just get through the framework, which is again, knowing when to sell your house, which is the highest appreciation. It's about demand. It's about starting with the right question, which is about differentiating yourself, which is anybody could answer how much your house is worth, but I want you to ask me a different question, which is how do I help you sell your house for more money? So that's the biggest differentiator right off the bat. And then the focus is that everything we do is strategically tied to this value up method. So in the very beginning, I'm tying them to this strategy that is called the value up method. That's all about how do we get more money for your house, which immediately differentiates myself from any other agent walking in to speak with them. The value up method goes into pillars such as the prep slow, sell fast, which is the first pillar. And we kind of are talking about how we think 80% of the effort should be done before we get to market and 20% is what's on the market. So that immediately gets them in sync with the more prepared a house is. We all know as agents that we're going to get more money for that house. We can talk about how statistics show houses that sit on the market will sell for less money, all of that stuff. But you have to get them on board with your strategy, and your strategy has to differentiate you from everybody else. And everything that you do is going to always be tied back to that strategy. To mine is value up. So prep slow, sell fast. And I go through all of why prepping slow is going to help them. I dive into how I want them to be thinking like me. So we're both thinking as value up strategists. One of the key ways to think as a value up strategist is going to be to think like a buyer, to win like a seller. And immediately I am getting them to physically take off their seller hats and put on their buyer hats. And again, when you're going through every part of a transaction with a seller, you have to get them to think like a buyer if you want to get them to win, whether it's through an inspection, whether it's through pricing, whether it's through marketing, it doesn't really matter. So thinking like a buyer, we go into targeting who that buyer is. So when we value up a house, we want to focus on who are we valuing up for. And then I'm showing them my expertise, right? I am identifying whom I think is going to buy that house. Who is that target buyer? I am going to then provide them with value up suggestions for their target buyer. It's not all about staging. It could be different than that. It could be about preparing the house with cleaning or maintenance or pre-inspection stuff. It could be lifestyle stuff I'm having them do. It could be showcasing rooms that are maybe they're an empty nester and they turned one of their extra bedrooms into an office. And I'm like, nope, we know that buyers have a really hard time being visual. So we need to turn that turn that office into a bedroom, because that's what your target buyer is going to be connecting to. So we prime for that right buyer, we prep it, and I give them high ROI recommendations. And by the way, they'll get all of that from me without any obligation. So I am offering them value up consultations without an obligation. We price that for the bullseye and then we launch. I'm giving you guys a very fast synopsis of it. The big, I think, when I teach my team about the value up is that in some way, shape, or form, we're kind of all doing it. We're just putting a program around it. We're creating a strategy and a system around it. And then we're creating all of the marketing assets around that strategy. So I can use my strategy, whether I'm at the listing appointment or let's be strategic here. I really want to use it to get into the house, to get ahead of the other agent, because I am offering them this value up consult, whether they're looking to maximize their house to sell or whether they're looking to enhance today and sell tomorrow. So I can go more, Selena, but is that
I think that's perfect and actually a great segue. So a lot of you that have designed your method, and if you haven't, this is something that you do need to do. Once you have your method defined, and it's usually just based on your experience in how you've gotten the best outcome for your sellers. Once you have that systematized and you have a method around it, what you want to do, now that's one of your offers, right? And that's a great offer, as Stacy said, to get in the door, right? So she does a value up consult to get her way into the home, right? And then when she is in the home, what you also want is a product offer. And a product offer aligns to your method, right? So for example, the value up method, but it's actually a product. We call this, in my world and in the sales world, you call this a go-to-market. Okay. So a go-to-market product is basically it's the core services that you're offering with some sort of value lever, benefit, guarantee, and it's packaged up in a way that makes it nearly impossible for someone to say no to. So normally when an agent goes into a listing appointment, usually you're talking about yourself. Usually you're talking about your stats. I've sold a ton of the homes in the area. I have a ton of experience. I have a great team. I do a lot of marketing. That's what you're selling when you go in, right? But that is no different than what your competitor is actually selling on. When you have a method, right? It is a way in which you do something that is unique to you. So it's a key differentiator. But how we make that method even better is if you have a product designed around that method. So I'm going to just talk you through an example, and I will use the value up method as the example. In this, note, this is not necessarily what Stacy's using. I'm just using this as an example. All right, so let's talk about the product offer. All right, so the traditional approach, and this is what I was just mentioning, is that agents will use one pitch that is about themselves, right, when they go into that listing appointment. And they have the same messages, and they basically assume that a seller is at the same stage, right, in their journey. Either I am listing now or I am listing in the future. That's usually where people sit, but they're going to assume that I'm going to try to do my best to get this person to list now if they are considering. What I'm going to talk to you about is creating offers for each stage of the journey, and really focus today on that I want them to act now. Okay. So you're in your listing appointment, what you can offer to make sure that you are the one that not only they choose, but that they decide to do it now. Okay. So the reality is that sellers are at different stages. Even when they call you into their home, they're at different stages. How many times have you gone into a listing appointment and they told you, they were looking to do something, but then they don't make a decision and they don't do anything, right? They just decided not to do it, right? Everybody's been in that situation. If they didn't pick another agent, they didn't pick anybody. So they could just be exploring their options, understanding their home value, right? They may be trying to understand the strategy of what they should be doing based on what is happening in the market right now, or some sort of life event has happened, which is actually a small percentage. Some sort of life event has happened, and they know without a shadow of a doubt that they are going to sell. That is actually a much smaller percentage of your appointments than the other two buckets. So let's talk about kind of the naming of this offer. So when you walk in having a product offer and actually going in with, here is what I offer, I don't just offer listing your home. I have this package of how I list it. I'm going to give you an example that a lot of you will be familiar with. 72 sold. That concept of having an actual named offer of something that you're doing in a period of time, that is basically a product offer. That is, I'm not just selling your home, but I'm going to sell it in 72 hours, right? That is a very specific offer. Now, I don't say that's a great example. And I'm going to give you some better examples of how to create this in a much more powerful way. But an offer gives you credibility, right? It's a proven system that you have, right? It gives you repeatability because it's scalable and you can use it across everybody. It helps you stand out, and that you stop selling about your experience and you start selling on your offer, which is actually how you should be selling. And it's something concrete for your market to differentiate you from, right? They can talk about it, they understand it, they know it. It's super clear that you do it that way. Okay. So in the 10x your listings method, we talk about 4 core things that we think are super important to be doing. And a lot of it is around the doing a video, having your SMS MOFIR go out, having daily conversations, right? But none of this strategy actually works well unless you have a method. Unless you are able to differentiate with your method, you are just not going to be able to convert at the level that is needed to generate a really great pipeline. So you have to use your method across all of this. So when you think about doing your video or you think about having your MOFIR message, make sure that you are always using your method as your value differentiation in some way. And we're going to talk about how to actually build it. So Alex Hormozi he actually has written quite a few books. He is very, very good when it comes to designing the right offers. And he does this across lots of different industries. I have kind of taken this approach to show you how to do this on your method in a listings way. Okay. So we're going to build this, like I said, for the value up method, and we're going to kind of do this together. And Stacy has not seen this. So I think this will be great because you'll see her ability to go through this and design it for the value up method. Okay. Because all of you will need to do this to be successful when it comes to 2026. It's going to make you differentiate more than anybody else. So here's
I think you're putting me on the spot here.
Of course I am. Why wouldn't
I love it. Good.
All right. So here is the formula for creating what's considered an irresistible offer. Okay. So it starts with the dream outcome. You always want to make sure that you are able to visualize what it is that a seller wants, and your offer is able to state that. Right. So it could be as simple as selling for top dollar, right? With zero regrets, right? I'm not going to leave money on the table. It could be as simple as that. Okay. You also want it to have the perceived likelihood. So confidence that you can deliver on that result. And that usually comes with guarantees. For the most part, in a product, it comes with guarantees, right? Like, I can do this in this period of time, or you could get out of your contract with me. right? Whatever that is, guarantees help to do that. Testimonials are good, but guarantees do it better than anybody else. Time delay, that's basically the speed of results, right? You can do this within 60 days. I could do this in, 45 days. And it doesn't have to mean you actually sell. It could mean that you prep it. I have a 7-day prep process, right? Some sort of time, the speed in which they can expect to see results is usually a part of it. And then their effort and sacrifice. So you want to actually remove any stress on them, remove the hassle for them. Okay. So your equation for creating a value-based product offer is these 4 components. Okay. Now I'm going to explain kind of how it works by giving you specific examples of it. But what I want to be clear of is that what we're talking about is what I am considering this deciding offer down here. So your method, and when you have that, like Stacy has her value up guide, right? That reveals the core aspects of her method. That is designed for top of the funnel. That is designed to get people curious, right? It's great for driving opt-ins, right? When it comes to your social presence, putting it on your website, right? Having people get curious about what you do and how you do it differently, that's considered a top of the funnel offer. Okay. Middle of the funnel offer is using your method to do something consultative around it, like Stacy's Value Up Consult, where she will go into a home and assess what things you could do to your home that will increase its value and that you will get, a 2x return ROI on what you do, right? That is a Value Up Consult. That is middle of the funnel. What we are talking about today is your deciding offer. It's your product offer, right? That is basically how your core service is your Value Up method for Stacy, right? That's your core service, but the actual product is something different. Okay, let's talk about that. All right, I'm just going to jump into the deciding offer. All right, so we talked about the core 4 pillars of it, and I just want to explain a couple of things that are really important to include. Okay, so one is value levers, and value levers are very specific, tangible things that people know they get. And I'm going to give you the example that pretty much most top agents are using as a value lever: free staging. Okay. A lot of agents use that. That is one, it's an example of a premium value add. It's a bonus. It is something additional that I am giving that other people may not be doing. Okay. It is something that you believe gets them a higher price, which in turn gets you a higher dollar back return, right? That is why you decide to include it. Another example of this may be deep cleaning or clean out services, or I will take care of your inspection, whatever that, or I will handle up to a certain amount of dollars of, work that needs to be done on your house to prep, whatever that may be. Those are all bonuses, and good product offers always have bonuses. As much as you try to stay away from it, it is the one thing that will make you stand out. And I am suggesting that you do it differently than just staging. Staging is great, definitely great. And there's a lot of value in that, right? But it may not be always applicable to everyone or every home. So thinking outside the box of what else you can include, whether that is a marketing promotion package, digital marketing efforts. It could be things that you are concierge service that you're going to handle for them, whatever that may be, including those value adds are really, really important. And the second thing that I notice that most agents do not include in their core services is what Hermosi calls a risk reversal, what I call a guarantee. Guarantee is basically, you can get out of this contract, or I will sell your home in 45 days, or you will, I'll pay for the next round of marketing for you, or we will adjust pricing, or we will do something. It's some sort of guarantee that makes them feel safe, that it's very easy for them to say yes and sign your listing agreement because it removes all the risk for them. That's why it's a risk removal. Okay. Those two things are really, really important to include. And however uncomfortable you are with including value adds, which Stacy, I know you always have been, however uncomfortable you are with doing it, those are what make the best offers. And it's actually why you see not that many agents doing it. They're not doing it because it's hard to do. Would you add anything to that, Stacy? Because I know you have certain feelings on this.
No, I mean, I think it's like it goes back to if you hear people talking about the MOFIRs, the best MOFIRs are the ones that make you most uncomfortable. So I think what's happened, like for me, is I went out with some very strong offers and my competition just decided to copy me. So then now I got to come up with something else. That's what's going on. And I'm sure other people feel the same way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the best form of flattery is when they copy you.
Just give people, just so you know, like for me, I always give people a 90-day out. I always do that. It's such a great part of my conversation. I'm like, I always give people after 90 days, if you're not happy, I give them unconditional withdrawals after 90 days. And then I say, nobody's ever taken me up on it, but it's out there if you need it. And I write it into my contract.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to do it. And what I'm suggesting is to package up all these things that you may already be offering into a named product. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this for the value up. All right. So dream outcome. I'm going to give you some examples, but what we want to do is kind of specify what each of these things are in the best way possible in a short amount of time so we can get through this. And you don't have to stick to it, Stacy. I am putting you on the spot, but just so that we have an example of what this could look like. All right. So dream outcome for value up is usually related to capturing your home's full value, right? Without feeling like you're losing out or without any regret, leaving money on the table. So I named it like this, but essentially it's minimal stress, complete confidence, right? In your sale and in your sale price is kind of how I've defined the dream outcome. Would you say that's aligned to the value up method? Okay. All right. Proof that
the value up method is all about not ever feeling like you've left any money on the table, which is exactly what a seller's biggest fear is. Typically, it's a seller's biggest fear is leaving money on the table.
And then proof that you can deliver. This typically the best ones are in some sort of guarantee, and the stronger you can make this, the better, right? Here are some examples, obviously. But 95% of people sell at or above asking. I think yours is about ROI, Stacy, but the actual proof in it for you is that people get, 2x return on the prep that we do or whatever it is, right? Whatever that may be. 5x return.
Yeah, I mean, you had us do this, Lena. You had us do a deep dive into our ROI when we first started working together, and we were able to come up with what the ROI was depending on what value up what part of the value up they wanted to do. So if it was paint, if it was lighting, if it was styling, whatever it was, and we were able to come up with some very strong X numbers that my team can speak to. And we speak very confidently about the things that matter the absolute most and what that investment will get them. So, yeah.
Okay, good. And then time delay. This is the one that I think most agents struggle with, is putting some sort of time. Obviously, there's things in your agreement and likely no one even gets to that point. But what kinds of things do you think are good examples for you?
When you say time delay, I'm sorry.
Your 90-day. Like you get 90-day out, or it could be day 30. If we don't get an offer by this day, we will launch our phase 2 marketing, or something that is like a timeline checkpoint. That's what that is like at some point, maybe in 90 days, you can get out of the agreement, right? Just like what you said.
Yeah.
It's something that has a time on it. It's time based, because that removes what a seller fear is, right? Is now I'm stuck.
Right. So it's not about is it about setting expectations for a seller of like, here's what to expect after the first week, after the second week, third week. And if these things are not happening, we'll have a conversation about like a market realignment.
Somewhat, but you want to make it very easy to explain, right? You should always be able to explain your product, right? Within 2 sentences, right? Like 30 seconds, you should be able to explain it. If there's a lot of like, okay, well, at this point, you got to do this. At this point, we're going to do this. At this point, that would be too much to explain. So it has to be something super simple.
So for us, I don't know if this is a working project here, but for us, typically what the goal is that we've taken everything off the table and the only thing left is price, right? Because that's what we say. So we do everything with the seller that they're comfortable, even a little not comfortable doing. And the only thing left is price. So I tell them after, it depends on the timing, it depends on the price point of the house, but I basically say, here's the expectation of when we will be receiving bids. And if this is not happening by this time, we know we need to adjust the price.
So price adjustment conversation by what timeline?
Depends on the price point of the house and the time of year, but it could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 to 6 weeks.
So I'm going to say that wouldn't be a good one if you can't specify a time.
Yeah, because $5 million house might be a little different than like an $800,000 house, which is I expect to have multiple bids after the weekend.
But if we want to name it something, it's got to be consistent. So you should base it on what the average price point is for you and stick to some sort of time, or don't use that one.
I say 2 weeks.
So within 2 weeks, if there is no offer?
Yes. 2 weeks if there are no bids, then when that would be a specific timeline checkpoint I'd be comfortable with.
Okay. That you will do what in 2 weeks?
So we will have bids.
That you will have bid in 2 weeks, or what? What happens?
Or we will have to have a conversation about the market realignment with pricing.
Okay. And then if I'm just playing devil's advocate, if I am the seller, it's possible that it needs a price adjustment, or, I mean, you probably hear this often, right? Maybe it's your marketing.
So we deliver a very robust marketing plan when we list a house, and we have to show them what we're doing. So I mean, like we have our omni-channel marketing. Yeah. So we're constantly, we're showing the sellers what we're doing on a regular basis. So we could always, I'm not sure if I could, yes, they would say to me, maybe it's my marketing. And I would say to them, let's go over the marketing we're doing. I mean, and let's see if there's something we could do differently or make better. But typically,
I would still go stronger.
No,
get more uncomfortable with it, right? As much as possible, that time checkpoint, like just think about, if someone else came to your market and said, you will have an offer in 30 days, or this is what I will do to remove your risk, right? Adjusting the price is not always it's usually the thing that needs to be done, but it's not.
I mean, okay, so I could offer them an additional budget for digital ads. That I could do that, and I've done that. Right? I could say at this point, we were going to need to put a number on it, another X amount of dollars on our digital marketing.
So that's actually perfect, right? Because they get to see what happens by that deadline, and they get that sense of relief, which is exactly what they're looking for, right? I won't be stuck because they're gonna put more marketing dollars towards it. Right?
Hi, Gwen. I would throw out about $500 probably. So typically, Gwen asked how much would the budget be. I would typically call my CMO Selena and say, "What do you think I need to spend?"
And I'm always about
give them a number that they felt was relevant. It doesn't even matter how much it's actually going. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but it doesn't even matter how much it's actually going to cost, how much it actually will make.
I wouldn't even focus on that with the seller. You focus on the amount of exposure they're going to get, right? So
focus on what number.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for me, I focus on a number they think is me having skin in the game. If I say $100, they're going to be like, that's nothing. If I say I'm going to spend $500, they feel good. They feel like I'm putting some skin in the game, and that's the message I want. That's what I want them to feel. Did that make sense? Makes sense. Shows I care. And it could be different in your I mean, if your average price is lower, you could come up with a different number. But I love what Selena is saying. By this time, if this isn't happening, here's what we're going to do. We're going to double down, and we're going to, instead of spending $250 a week on digital marketing, we're going to double that up, and we're going to go 500, which is going to allow us to get more exposure for ready, willing, and able buyers. And that's all stuff you've already spoken about in your marketing strategy, but now you're doubling down on what you know works to get them more exposure to ready, willing, and able buyers, and obviously also to agents that have potentially have buyers.
Okay, let's talk about effort. So the question I usually will ask here is, how do you remove seller overwhelm, right? Like prep coordination, vendor scheduling, clean out support. What are the levers you can do to remove the hassle or perceived hassle that a seller goes through?
So for us, we have a client concierge person. I have somebody on my team that is there to hold my seller's hand. That's the way that and we also have a vendor directory of people who respond. A lot of times the seller's biggest concern is, well, I've tried to call a painter and nobody calls me back. I've tried to call a plumber, nobody calls me back. So a lot of times, even before I get the listing, I'll walk through a house, I'll see that something needs done, like somebody has a little mold or something, and I'll say, here you go. I put a text message together with myself and the person who's going to fix the problem, and they're already on the phone. Like within a day, they got somebody who's responding, somebody who's at their house, and I look like a hero. Of course, I'm having a conversation with whomever I'm connecting them to prior to making the connection to let them know what I expect and taking really good care of that person. I have people that respond. I have a directory of vendors that I have approved, and I have a client concierge person on my team that is going to hold their hand.
Okay, great. And let's go very specific now. Oh, so very specific would be,
I'm off hot
you
seat.
have a dedicated concierge who will handle your scheduling for anything that needs prep, part of our value up prep plan. We will have a dedicated concierge handle all of the scheduling and be there so that you don't have to be there.
That's the other thing we do. That's exactly the other thing we do. So we have a lot, we say, and we are boots on the ground. So if you need, we will be there to receive somebody if you cannot be. That's what I do.
Okay, good. All right. And then, and I know you've talked about this one before, so I'll bring it up, but clean out and donation coordination, right?
So this is a new one for us. Selena, you had me talking about this before. You said, what else can you offer? And I said, we're doing a lot of this anyway, but I will offer it as part of my service for people. It's the clean out, because it removes so much stress. To your point, like people have been in their homes for 20, 30 years, and they're just like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. So you got to help them on the front end, on your end, getting that house ready to go to market. And then I'm going to say, listen, you just go. You take what you need, you go, and we'll not only will we clean out, but I have somebody who will help you sell it and give you some money back for it. And yeah, so we do that.
Okay, perfect.
That's a little new for us though. That's a new one. The paying for the clean out is new.
And then they're asking, you only coordinate that or do you pay for it?
My new offer, as of my conversation with Selena a couple of weeks ago, is paying for a clean out. That's that's fair. That's what I'm offering right now.
Okay, good. Okay. So I think we've covered all of the time delay, the dream outcome, the perceived likelihood, your value levers, effort, things that you're going to handle for them. Now it's like the most important step, because we'll put that all together and it will come into an actual offer. But to put it together, you want to essentially name it, right? You want to have a product name. So the product name, you do want it to offer that dream outcome in it. It's kind of like, people are paying you for the outcome. They're not paying you for the tool, right? Or the method. They're paying you actually for the outcome. So I always do say to use some sort of tangible number in there. So I'm going to throw out a couple of ideas and then let's see if anything resonates with you or the group together. Okay. All right. So first one, the value up, and I'm using value up specifically because that is the name of your method. So it's something that people already remember, and why reinvent the word again, right? It should be aligned to your actual method. So the value up 45-day sell with certainty plan. So it's very specific. I don't have to really ask you too much about it if I saw it somewhere in writing, right? And you do want some level of curiosity so that they book a meeting with you, right? If you're telling them, I have this plan and I can talk to you about the plan. But it's got to be enough for them to understand without having to be like, I have no idea what you're saying, right? So the value up 45 days sell with certainty plan. That could be one. Anyone in the chat have another example? And I'm going to put a few more in the chat. Or what thing resonates with them based on what maybe was a powerful, tangible value lever that you saw. We plan to launch a senior vertical with a dedicated agent. That's great. It will be great to apply this strategy with a named program. I'm going to give you 3 more names, and I'm also just going to put in the chat what we agreed on, what I took notes of. So just to quickly recap, right? The core service is you're offering is the value up method. The bonuses or tangible value levers are, and this is stuff Stacy already offers some of this, right? Prep slow, sell fast roadmap, like what exactly they're going to do to prep the home, clean out donation coordination, vendor scheduling and oversight, professional photo and lifestyle marketing. That's Stacy's kind of branded marketing.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I am saying there should be something related to a time, like 45-day market truth review, right? Which is like what Stacy was mentioning. And I was trying to get her to get to a timeline. But if you do 45-day market truth review, we will review it. We'll review what the market is doing, what changes have been. We'll review pricing, and then let's talk about the guarantees. So they can easy exit if expectations or communications aren't met, right? Some sort of easy way to get out. That's risk reversal. Stacy's trust boosters, and all of you have these, but Stacy's trust boosters are over $1 billion in lifetime sales, top 1% team, national media exposure, tons of 5-star reviews, right? All this kind of stuff leads into that. So let me put this in the chat, and then I am going to put in a couple of other options. And I always say this, and actually Hoda sometimes has to help remind everyone to not overthink it. It doesn't have to sound like the most amazing thing. Trust me, when they hear everything that you're including, it will be far more than any of your competitive agents are doing, and it will be better than them. And that's all that matters. So here are a couple more examples. So I said the value up sell with certainty plan, the value up smart sales system, the value up no regret selling plan, the value up confident seller program, the value up proven sale plan. Whatever you call it, the important part is that you name it something. When you name it something, that is what makes it stand out. That is what makes it remembered. That is what makes it an actual product. Any thoughts, Stacy?
I would hire me. Hire me. No, I think the one thing you said is I think a lot of agents get stuck on not being able to pull out the stuff that they're already doing and putting a program or marketing it in a way that marketing it because they think it's, well, just because you guys have been doing it for so long doesn't mean it's not special or unique or that it's not going to resonate with your potential clients. A lot of times when I'm speaking on family reunion or mega camp, when I talked about this, people would say, yeah, you're totally right. There's so much I'm doing that I could be capitalizing on. And we just get into the habit. We just get into our daily rhythm and think that it's normal. You top producers, what you're doing is typically not normal. And it's typically more than everybody.
Nobody in your market, I'm positive nobody in your market is saying it like this. No one is literally packaging up their offers in this way. And
well,
so
that's the biggest thing, right? It's like, it's this where people like, we're not marketing experts, right? Like I'm becoming a marketing expert because I'm your partner, but typically agents are not marketing experts. We do what we do because we know it's what works. We know it's what gets the best results, but we're not like being able to market it like this. And now taking it to the next step and putting it into a product, like you're saying, yes, it's very important.
Yeah. Next level. So just a couple of considerations before we end. A couple of things when you think about what your product offer is, think about the market you're in. You can have, I would say anytime the market changes, your product offer may change. So the value up method will always be the value up method. That is your method for life, right? And it can evolve and get better, but value up method stays. But when it comes to the actual offer, your product offer, how you are packaging up your product, that may change based on the market conditions, and it's okay. So the way that I've kind of framed this up is based on different markets. You want to be thinking about what the seller's fear is, right? What they're thinking about and what they are considering, right? Because that's going to help you with your risk reversal. That's going to help you with determining what value levers you add into it. So in a seller's market, the fear is leaving money on the table, right? That's the market that Stacy's market is in right now. If you are in a buyer's market, their biggest fear is it's staying on the market, right? Getting stuck with a home that's not sold. becoming an expired listing, right? That is what their concern is likely to be. If you're in a shifting market, maybe making the wrong decision or pricing it incorrectly, or, whatever that may be, make sure that you're thinking about the market condition when you're designing the offer, because again, it is heavily rooted, your risk and your guarantees are heavily rooted in their fears. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're thinking through that. So on the next call, what we're going to go through very specifically is building your funnel for your product offer. This is something that Agent Moves will provide it for you, but you do want to come up with what your actual product offer is, and we will design a perfectly crafted product offer page so that you can actually show this in your listing appointment. That becomes your presentation. You don't need anything else, nothing else. All you will need is this one pager that essentially explains what you provide to your sellers. And again, it will be like nothing other. They're not going to be flipping through a screen of presentation slides that every other agent is showing. This is where you will differentiate the most. Okay. So be thinking through very unique value adds that make sense for your market. What makes sense in Stacy's market may not make sense in yours. But other things that I've seen done are house cleaning, moving concierge, home warranty has been a bigger thing I've been seeing. And
that's a good one, by the way. That's a good one. A lot of the market centers have programs where with home warranty company. I like that one a lot. And that you get that home warranty before you list the house. So then you could market the house that it has a house warranty, which saves you on a lot of inspection stuff too.
Absolutely. And yes, I will send the slides for you guys. You will actually get a written document on how to build this for yourself. It's actually in within the 10x Your Roadmap. There will be a link directly in there so that you can build this for yourself. Definitely, if you are a part of a team, you can create your own or leverage your teams. Your biggest advantage is leverage what your team is actually using, leverage their method and combine it together. There's more power in the numbers. Your exposure will be much better. But I would recommend doing that and discussing it with your team leader when you come up with your very specific offers, because that obviously has to translate to your listing agreement and make sure that you have all the right legal language in there. So I will preface all of that with that. All right, so that was it for today. We're going to talk specifically about funnels and where to promote your funnels on our next Tuesday's meeting. But keep driving it ahead. I see lots of great content plans that you guys have created. That is basically what you should be starting with, aside from being in your daily conversations, is make sure you start creating your videos this week. All right, that's all. Thank you guys. Thanks for being a good sport, Stacy.
My pleasure. Bye, guys.
All right, bye.